So I'm back to do my UFC 156 recap video, and for the most part this is all about comebacks. This is about fighters who are basically winning all the way through and then lose in the final round for some reason. The first example of this was right at the start with Edwin Figueroa, who I had hoped would win, and the first round sort of showed why I could have been correct. Unfortunately, in the second round, it didn't quite go to plan, and he ended up getting TKO'd. I think the bout with Villaflag was a little bit different. That was more like tit for tat. Edwards perhaps managed to take it all the way to decision because of his experience level, but he didn't win. Now I think that was a split decision. Yeah, I think that was a split decision, and I think that's probably the right call with that one. Again, this is the first of several fights that show the introduction of some of the Strikeforce stock, which has slightly overwhelmed the UFC stock, basically because not because they're excellently that much better, but perhaps because they're different, and they may well be not quite so well known to the fighters who are fighting them. Volkman is a good example of this, but his cardio needs work. By the third round, it was quite obvious that he was seriously flagging, and Bobby Green just looked totally like, he just sort of stepped up into the fight. So, it's also interesting that Jacob Volkman at the end of each round was always focused on trying to get an RNC, and then gets caught in one at the end of the third, and it was literally in the last sort of 20 seconds or so of the third round. He only got caught in the RNC because out of desperation, I think, with the ground and pound, he turned and gave up his back. So either way, it was a rock and hard place. He would either have been called off as a stoppage moments before, or as it was, the submission victory. Tyron Woodley won, and I'm glad to say that's at least one person who I predicted to win that did win. And his win was very impressive. It was a first round knockout. No doubt he probably got knockout of the night, I don't know, I haven't checked. Not quite, on a usual card, that would probably be enough to earn Fighter of the Card award from me, but this card was slightly different, and so Tyrone Woodley doesn't receive that honour from me, but it was, an excellent debut for him. Evan Dunham, I think that was a split decision win as well, and I did say, or was that the... Yes, that's the one with Gleason Tibau. I did say that was 6 of one and half a dozen of the other as to who would win that one. Split decision. Joseph Benavidez again won the decision, unanimous, but I wasn't quite expecting the second round from McCall there. I had thought that Joseph Benavidez would take all 3 rounds here, and I have to say McCall at times showed that he was, an extremely good fighter. I think quite overlooked, to be honest. People see his funny moustache thing and think, oh, he's a bit weird. Yeah, so I was quite surprised at that. But, at least Joseph Benavidez won. Demian Maia, I didn't think he would do it quite in that way, I have to admit. I did think that he would be able to get a submission victory. But this was a ground war. And I know he's gone on about how he, basically was a Fitch against the Fitch and won. And maybe Fitch knows how it feels now to get constantly taken down and, you know, abstract groundwork which doesn't lead to a stoppage, but, you know, infuriatingly will lead to a decision victory. Not quite lay and pray, thank goodness, but there was a lot of pinning, and there was a lot of, you know, these funny sort of like body locks and stuff like that, which are fine, they hold a person in place, but they're unlikely to finish a fight. The big surprise of the card was Alistair Overeem not winning, despite having gone through both rounds exceedingly well, and winning both of them. In the third, something went wrong, and you could call it a lucky kick or a lucky punch or whatever. But when poor Overeem did get a bit wobbly and was basically using the fence to stay up, it wasn't long before Silva just sort of basically exploded on him. Yeah, interesting, because that's not what people had hoped for or expected. I think a lot of people had really hoped that Overeem would get a knockout in the first round. I'm not sure they expected it to go all the way to the third round. I'm not sure they expected Silva to be anywhere near as good on the feet. And I'm absolutely certain they didn't expect the end to come like that. So, you know, that's several people now who have basically had a turnaround halfway through and come back to win. If anybody cares, Nogueira, Little Nogs, showed that he wasn't quite as old as perhaps I had thought, and he won a unanimous decision. And the same with Jose Aldo, who I had expected to win this one. Now, there was talk about him being injured just before the fight, or at least having, you know, certain cuts that could be possibly opened up. But, you know, despite the layoff, he did very well. And I'm not quite sure now where that leaves Frankie Edgar. Like I said in the predictions video, I wouldn't have gone for dropping down in weight. Never mind, you know, facing the champion straight away. So clearly the fight, the people were in favour of Jose Aldo there, and I have to say, he's very exciting and he's very explosive. I do like Frankie Edgar, who is very reliable, but his style isn't anywhere near as explosive. Now, for my fighter of the card. There was a fight on this card, and it was between Dustin Kimura and Chico Camus. And Chico Camus should have won this one. He is very, very good on the feet and not too bad on the ground. Kimura not so good on the feet, but maybe exceptional on the ground, and that could have been the problem. During the first round, you know, it's hit and miss as to whether you think Chico Camus or Kimura actually won. I think probably Chico Camus won, but you have to remember that when it went to the ground, he was always tackling a defence with an offence following, if that makes sense. So he would try and turn around, he would not just try and defend himself, but try and turn his defence into an offence as well. This was more obviously seen in the second round, particularly at the end of the second round, where, you know, Chico did very, very well, not to get caught in some submission as they went roly-poly across the floor. But there was also a little bit of sort of cheek from Chico Camus, you know, the finger wag. Oh, the finger wag. No, you don't do that sort of thing. Which, in a way, so backfired on him, because in the third round, he wasn't so lucky, and he actually ends up tapping out to an RNC. The mind boggle of this is that Chico Camus was dead set on getting the takedown. And he did get the takedown many, many times. Why would you take a guy down if it's been proven to you in the first round that the guy is just as good, if not much better than you on the ground? Why would you not stay standing where you're obviously better? Had this been a war on the feet, where Chico Camus had not gone to take down Kaimura at all, he would have won a decision at worse. Because he was taking him down, he was scoring points with the takedown, only to end up in a hell of a lot of trouble that he struggled, really struggled, to get out of, and didn't in the last. And I just think the way that Kaimura did it, you know, he didn't lose heart, and he just did what he did. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. I did. I really did. And because of that, I think that I'm going to give him my Fighter of the Card award.